So should we go for it?
Yep.
All right. All right. Call the EDA meeting to order, February 21st. All right. First item, oath of office, Suzanne Urkel. So if you would, raise your right hand and read aloud.
I, Suzanne Urkel, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Minnesota and faithfully discharge the duties as member of the City of East Bethel Economic Development Authority in the County of Anoka and the state of Minnesota to the best of my ability. So help me God.
All right, thank you. Looking forward to having you help us do good things.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Item number 3, adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'd move to adopt the agenda submitted.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, approval of the January 17th EDA meeting minutes. Are there any comments or changes or discussion?
Julie, I wasn't here, but on 5.0, where the applicants that were interviewed was Suzanne, Wanda, and Jesse, I think you got to cross out Wanda because she didn't,
Oh, you're right.
yeah.
We'll make that amendment.
I didn't follow you, Tim. What, could you repeat?
On 5.0, where they did the interview applicants, it was Suzanne, Wanda, and Jesse. Wanda removed herself, so she wasn't interviewed.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should delete that from.
Delete that, yeah.
Delete that from that. All right, good call. Anything else? I've read through most of them.
Again, I would move for approval as amended.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right. All right, item number 5, election of officers.
Do you want to go through this one by one? Or do you want to just propose a ballot?
Or, well, Jack, do you want to read
Yeah.
the statement and?
Thank you, Julie and Brian. For EDA bylaws, the officers of the authority shall consist of a president, vice president, treasurer, assistant secretary, assistant treasurer, and secretary. A commissioner may not serve as president and vice president at the same time. The EDA bylaws state that the treasurer shall be the executive director of the authority and that the executive director shall be the city administrator. The EDA bylaws state the assistant treasurer will be the city finance director. EDA officers for 2022 were President Julie Lux, Vice President Tom Schulzenberg, Treasurer Jack Davis, Assistant Treasurer Mike Jaworski, and the Secretary was Carrie Frost, who was appointed by the EDA. This position does not have to be a member. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Staff recommends the EDA elect a president and a vice president and elect or appoint a secretary to serve from February 21st, 2023 through January 31st, 2024, and designate the city administrator to serve as the treasurer, the finance director as the assistant treasurer, and reappoint Carrie Frost as the secretary or elect a secretary from the group.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'll open it up for discussion. I'll just say it's been an honor and I would be happy to continue to serve, but open for discussion. And Tom, I think.
I'm willing to serve again as vice president if everyone agrees.
Yeah, so we can, so we need to recommend, so it's a vote. So we vote and make a motion, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Jack, to back my original question, do you want us to go through these one at a time for each position?
Actually, you can do, since we've had two, and if there's no other nominees, you can just vote on the president and the vice president at the same time.
Okay.
Then you'll have to decide what you want to do about the secretary position. I would keep that one separate, though. It would probably be better, though, just to do them individually. Let's just do the president, and then we'll do the vice president, so.
Got it. Okay, I get what you're saying. Sorry.
Okay, so I would nominate Julie Lux as president for the EDA and for 2022, from a term from January 15, 2022 to January 31, 2023.
Brian, that's a typo. It should be January 21st, 2023 through January 31st, 2024.
There you go, making me look like I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I read it wrong first, too, so I'm right there with you.
From January 21, 2022.
I'll second that motion.
Are the dates right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries.
I would nominate Tom Stolzenberg to serve as vice president from February 21, 2022 to January 31, 2023.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion carries.
Abstain.
And then we need to approve JET.
No, that's
'Cause
in the
that's
bylaws.
just set, that's in the bylaws, that's
Now,
correct.
we do need to appoint or elect a secretary. The duties of the secretary are really nothing because we have staff that does that.
Sure,
That's why we appointed Carrie the last time.
okay.
But if somebody here would like to be the secretary, that's perfectly fine too. So whatever your wishes are.
And the typical duties of the secretary are to record minutes or organize agenda items.
Actually, there are no prescribed duties of the secretary, but that's essentially what they do. They make sure the minutes are corrected as approved, they prepare the packets and things of that nature.
But in effect, it would just be a more or less honorary position.
Yes.
Correct, because you would delegate that duty to someone else.
So.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve Carrie Frost to, secretary, keep her secretary.
Yeah, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we've got our recommendations.
Good.
Okay. Item number 6, staff report.
I just wanted to update everybody on a couple of items, and some of these we can talk about as direction for future topics. The first one is the Business Retention and Expansion Program. We briefly discussed this at our last meeting. Is one of the major things that the EDA has accomplished. This was finished, I believe, in 2016. I did send out a little addendum. It's a kind of a PowerPoint slideshow on the BRE. And here it is, and the program had essentially 5 objectives: to demonstrate support for local businesses, to solve immediate business concerns, to increase local businesses' ability to compete in the global economy, to establish and implement a strategic plan for economic development and build community capacity to sustain growth and development. I would like to have this as a more in-depth discussion item at our next meeting and see where we are and see if we want to reinvigorate some of this stuff, especially in terms of outreach programs to existing businesses, which though would involve also the participation of the Chamber of Commerce in order to help us get enough people to do that. I just want to know if that's something that you'd like us to follow up on and bring back to the next meeting.
I'll open up for discussion, but I would really like to, I think it's important to the city and for our businesses we've invested so much time already. It really makes sense to continue it and expand it, because it can only do more good.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we don't know issues, we can't address them.
Exactly. And then things might be different this time around. I mean,
Yeah.
we've improved broadband, excuse me, and there might be other issues that come up.
And we can also see if the improvements that we made the first time actually improve things.
Exactly.
And you know, one positive takeaway, even though we did have a business that's relocating out of the city, we've had only one other one that I can think of that's left East Bethel in the last 5 years. So I think that's a very positive sign, but like you said, things have changed. This isn't 2016 anymore, this is 2023.
Right.
And we need to assess everything relative to the times we're in. And I know, Brian, you were on some of those panels that went and did some of those interviews.
Yep.
Were you involved in that, Julie?
I was on the East Bethel Jobs Committee.
Okay, I knew
Yeah.
you had some involvement in it too, so it may be that we're gonna be looking for some volunteers from the EDA. And what I'd like to do is maybe get somebody here also from the chamber at the next meeting.
Yes.
So we can brief them on what we wanna try to do and try to outline a plan for this and get them involved, because it does take a lot of manpower to get this done.
So, his name is escaping me today, but with Connexus Energy.
Oh, Bruce Saylor.
Bruce, yeah.
Bruce is retired.
Oh, no, he was so good. He
I
was such an
know.
integral part of that.
Well, maybe it's time to introduce.
Maybe
have
he's
his
bored. Yeah.
I'll reach out to the person that replaced him and see if
Okay.
they can come back at the next meeting too.
Okay, that would be great.
Because, yeah, he was a very valuable asset to the
Yes.
development of this whole thing.
Can you also check in with the U of M
Yeah,
that originally put this program on to see if they have a follow-up program or anything?
you sure can.
Or, right, that's a great idea, because, so after the fact, we've got this 99-page document, we went through the steps, but how do we reinvigorate this, and how do we,
Yeah, if they have another,
yeah, right.
Well, and you know, I don't think it was a document that was gonna be done just to do it one time and then lay on the shelf. I think it's just a continual process. And,
Right.
living document.
yeah, and again, like, I think is very well pointed out, you know, things are different now than they were in 2016. We have made some improvements. We need to assess those, how they've helped, and see what the needs are now.
Right.
Yeah, maybe make it a standing 5-year review.
I think that would be good. You know, we've gone a little bit longer than 5, but,
But,
At least we're revisiting it.
yeah.
correct.
You know,
And-
one of the huge issues in my mind that should help us attract the type of development and businesses that we want, and we didn't have it before, is now we have the ability, and it isn't gonna serve all of the properties that are zoned commercial industrial. But fire protection is a huge issue in commercial construction. And we no longer, like, when our Saviors had an addition, they had to put in a, not an addition, the new campus. They had to have a
Fire suppression unit.
reservoir underneath the sanctuary and a fire pump and both electric and diesel. Now, we got a water tower. You can, if it's in the proper area, someone can just put fire protection in by calling up
Yeah.
whoever,
Versus other areas. say,
Versus-
Just say Ham Lake that doesn't have city sewer and water.
Ham Lake does not have, maybe down at the far south side, they might be able to hook into Blaine water, I don't know. But, fire protection's an issue.
And I
In
imagine for
constru-
interest rates too,
Huh?
for interest, or insurance rates.
Insurance
Insurance,
rates too,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's a good point. So next steps,
Next steps would be to review some of the things we can identify, a few things we need to discuss, maybe narrow down what we want to focus on, what the current needs are, as opposed to what they were in 2016. And get some people here who were involved in the program the last time, to see if we can re-recruit them to join
Sure.
us again.
And for those of you that weren't here, if you get a chance to read the document, and if you have any questions or suggestions or topics, that'll be really helpful too. Okay. Great. Any
Is that
other
document
discussion?
online?
Jack sent it today.
I sent it yesterday. You
Or
should-
yesterday,
You should have
sorry.
gotten an email with a copy of it.
I haven't gotten anything from you for a
Okay.
date.
I'll make sure you get that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I
So
know,
that's,
I know I sent it because I sent it to your personal email address. And
Yeah.
it didn't bounce back. Maybe it went somewhere else, but I'll check it.
Oh, yeah, I don't look at my spam very much.
And it very well could have gone to there too, so.
I'll check.
it'll be good reading tomorrow in the snow.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
The city broadband expansion and improvement initiative that we've been working on here now for over a year. As we reported in December, the county is supposed to get word in March, which is just a little more, 8 days away, on what they're gonna be able to do with some money that they had since they didn't get the deed grant. So hopefully we'll have some better news to report on. Right now, we're still in the same holding period until we get a determination back from them. So we'll have conversations with Greg Gillis, and if we can, I'd like to try to get him back here, if not next month, then in April too, so we can start back on that once we get some updated information on where we stand with access to those county funds.
Okay.
And on the Elevage project, I spoke to Mr. Burstead yesterday, and he said they're currently compiling pricing information for their bid and contract awards, and that he is still on his schedule for commencing that project yet this year. He wouldn't commit to a date, I didn't expect him to, but he says they're moving forward with it, so that's positive news.
All right. Thank you. Any other, I don't know if it's within this item number or the next item number. Just curious about if you've got more applicants for the open position, and if you'll be going through interviews for the community development director.
We, in the re-advertisement period, we got 2 more applicants.
Okay.
That closed today.
Mm.
I don't think it's gonna do us any more good to re-advertise the position again.
Okay.
So we will rate those candidates and try to set up interviews, hopefully starting next week, and have something to city council hopefully by the 13th of March.
For those interviews, who will be conducting the interviews?
As it stands now, it will be the personnel committee, and which will be Mr. Harrington and Mr. Lewis and myself and Mike Jaworski.
Okay. I know that we talked to Ms. Hanson about inviting her back to interview for that. Also wonder if we wouldn't want to include our EDA president, Ms. Lux, to do that, because I know she assisted in interviews for the Anoka County
If
position.
If
I
she would
did.
like to do that, I would more than welcome her presence on there. It would probably be an all-day affair, and it would probably be a day that we won't know until probably the first of next week, and be the following week that we would do that. So if you're interested,
Yeah,
I can give you a date.
not to volunteer you.
Thanks, Brian.
I just thought it might be a good idea.
If I'm available, I'd be happy to.
Okay,
So I'm gone all next week, but you think it's gonna be the week after?
I think so.
Okay, I might be doing a little bit of catch-up, but yeah, if I'm available, I'd be happy to.
I'll let you know as soon as
Okay,
we'll probably schedule the interviews for next week, so then, well, I'm sorry, the week after.
sounds good.
So I'll let you know what the schedule is, and you can see if that can work out for you.
Very
Yeah,
good.
we thought about Mrs. Hanson, but she actually knows a couple of the applicants, so I
Okay.
think it'd be
Oh,
best if we have somebody that's not,
Independent.
yeah, a little more independent and separated from those people.
Very good.
sounds good.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Brian. All right. So are we ready for item number 7,
I am.
business activity report?
Most of these are just short updates, but the Stone Group, they're the, kind of a subsidiary of Cambridge State Bank that platted the property south of Dollar General into 6 commercial lots. Those are currently being marketed. They did try to auction those off, but I understand they didn't get the price that they wanted. So now they've gone to a marketing sale. Here's the 6 lots, and what their pricing on them is. Their pricing works out to about $60,000 an acre. So, we haven't heard any updates, on anything, nor received any inquiries from any potential purchasers at this date. So, we'll keep you posted as things develop on that property and its sale. The Holiday Store site plan review was completed, and the permits for the demolition and new construction have been issued, and we're just waiting on them to give us a start date. They're still waiting, I think, on some material deliveries. They want to make sure that everything's going to be delivered in terms of the times that they need them, but we have issued the permits for the demolition and the new construction. Thistle and Ivory is the business that's next to Boat World. The front's Highway 65, but it's accessed by Davenport Street. There's been a potential buyer that's contacted us about that to discuss the zoning and what can be used at this location. That's really all the information I have now, but it is drawing some interest. On our commercial lot mapping, we're gathering some information. Julie sent me some information today that I think will be very useful to look at. Aaron and I will talk about that tomorrow, and
Perfect.
I'll get back to you.
Yep, happy to help.
All right, thank you so much. On the Quick Trip, we have had, still waiting for the final issuance of the permit. We're waiting on them to satisfy the engineer's comments, but they have submitted the plans, and it appears those permits may be issued hopefully within the next 30 days. A-Blast Sandblasting, which is located on Johnson Street. If you recall, they had a grand opening here about a little over a year ago. They're wanting to expand, and that'll require a conditional use permit, and this will be placed on City Council for a future agenda when all their application materials are received. And finally, there's a property north of Dollar General and north of Pat Small Engines, which was originally platted as Victoria Meadows. This is Pat Small Engine right here. We've had some inquiries on that as to what can be used here and what the zoning on it is, and it looks like there are some interested buyers for that property. So that's what's happened in the last month on our business activity report.
Does the Stone Group own that outlet B as well?
No, they don't own that. I'm
Okay.
trying to think who the owner is. It's an individual property owner. It's about 13 acres in here.
Yeah, not a big concern, just curious if they own both.
No. I thought they did at one time too, but they don't. So this is another owner.
Jack,
Go ahead.
So go ahead, Brian.
the lots in Block 1, are those all zoned R1?
Yeah, these are all zoned R1, that's correct.
Okay, I'm assuming that the proposed business in Outlot B would not be causing a conflict with a residential neighborhood in reasonable proximity, or Across the road?
These are zone B2, which means they have restricted outside storage.
Okay,
So I'm sure at the time of planning, and I would think that this is 12 acres, so it would probably be done the way the Stone Group was, which is a PUD. There would be requirements for screening or four-sided architecture to make sure that there weren't any real visual contacts with those lots across the street. The other good thing is all these lots, though, essentially front on, this is Polk Street, I believe, not Polk, but
Buchanan.
Buchanan, yeah.
Yeah.
Buchanan. So this is a backyard view, but all of these properties here,
Good.
were developed would have to have the four-sided architecture.
Good point.
And
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think if I recall correctly, the rear of the lots of block ones have some substantial berms built up
Yeah.
originally.
Yeah, you can see the topography on there a little bit.
So, not that it's excusing business from taking on their own responsibilities, but just to add information.
And just to point this out, that's two properties north and south of 209th that are people are checking on for development. We did get a notice from a large property owner that's north of 213th Avenue. That's where Teddy Bear Daycare Center was. This person owns property all the way up to 221st and then along 221st, even across from City Hall, that he has contacted us and says he's interested in selling his property. So we've been working and having some discussions with him. I don't know when he's gonna put some of it on the market, but he is very serious about divesting himself of some of his land holdings here. And that along with, we've had a few discussions with the ISD 15. They contacted us about potentially hooking on to city water and sewer when it became available. This is something that they had never talked about before. So with a lot of these things coming into play, it may be, once we get some confirmation and a little bit more information and direction on where some of these people are going, we may be needing to start looking at what we can do to provide services in this area, if there's a way to pay for it in a reasonable manner. So this whole area, this Sims Highway 65 intersection is starting to draw a lot of interest.
Okay. Tom, you had a question? or
Jack, you
comment?
answered part of my question already in terms of the hookups in the area, but it's, I don't know, maybe this happens more often than not, but you have 5 properties for sale just south, and then north, someone's interested in a 6th one, which is technically not for public sale, but, you know, exploring the option. Is that something the city can help direct that and say, like, well, we can offer you this, these are for sale here, this is something that might be of more interest to you in terms of immediate usability, rather than exploring something which is, you know, not really plotted out well, and you might need rezoning and all that?
We
I mean,
have.
we got a lot of property for sale in, you know, this one little location.
We have on certain occasions tried to redirect people to other sites. Generally, they haven't been real receptive to that. They've kind of found one that they liked and thought it would be best. At one time, Bill's, the convenience store, was very interested in this property just north of this site at the corner of 65 and Sims Road. We tried to get them interested in something south of Viking Boulevard. This was pre-Quick Trip. And they said, yeah, that looked good, but they had a specific interest in this area, which they said was more advantageous to their marketing plan because it was close to the school, and said that they had a lot of traffic where they, in other locations, that people were stopping, taking their kids to school in the morning and coming back in the evenings. So any chance we get, if we have people who are looking for places, our first thing is to try to redirect them back to the area south of 65. But some of them have their own needs, and they seem to think some sites are more preferable to others based on its location, exposure to traffic, or for whatever reasons.
I would just hate for two property owners to be in competition with one another for
Yeah.
potential buyers, you know?
And, you know, that can be good and bad, but in this case, the sites down on the Stone Group are broken up into smaller tracts. This one's still open, so it could be used maybe for a larger retail type activity, or it may be divided up into smaller lots too. It just depends what the potential purchaser is looking for.
Sounds good, thanks.
So, you know, we're still getting some things, a few things. The golf course sale that was talked about last year, looks like it's on hold for a while. But there's still a lot of interest in this area, even with the high interest rates and still the high cost of construction. So I think there's a lot of people that are realizing that there is good commercial potential up here, and
Right.
it's starting to generate quite a bit of interest.
Our land values are reasonable and.
Yeah, and I think that's pointed out if you look at those prices on that Stone Group property.
Right.
You know, now, we did some comps in the water and sewer district, and that acreage is selling for about $125,000 an acre.
Right. Yeah, I was just surprised at how they platted that out and, you know, without water and sewer, it just seems like your uses are limited.
Yeah, they really are, and I think all this is Zone B2, which is
Right.
limited highway. And I'm not sure, you know, like I said before, they originally were gonna auction this, or maybe they did put it up for auction,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't generate the interest or the price that they wanted to get, so that's why they've gone to the sale of these by individual lots.
Yeah.
Jack, is the force main in this location, is it on the east side of the highway or the west side?
West side. So, you know, there is the opportunity to get sewer service here, but with these lots here, they wouldn't necessarily, in a lot of applications, unless it was a restaurant, I don't think these are lots that are gonna be conducive for a restaurant.
Or
There-
medical, I mean, you wouldn't have much of a water draw, even for
No.
like dental or anything.
The thing about restaurants is, you know, they have such a high water demand, and
Mm-hmm.
design of septic systems for them requires quite a bit of extra land. I know that there was one down in Ham Lake T-Box. When it went in, it wanted to build a bigger building, but it couldn't because it didn't have enough property around it to meet the septic
Right.
design for the area for the drain field.
Well, now I see there's a car wash going in just north of Casey's on 65 and
Bunker?
Bunker. So that's gonna be interesting. That's a big water usage.
That sure is.
But I think that's inside the Musa.
It's not,
It isn't.
because the Casey's, I
Casey's
sold
is
that
unseparate.
lot, that corner lot to Casey's, and they put in a private septic and well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I mean, that was years ago, that was one of the issues with whatever you want to call the, you know, now it's, you know, it was Super America and whatever, you know, the
Right.
gas station down by
Yep.
I mean, the movie theater they were pumping their,
Mhm.
when the Mullers owned it, Mike Muller told me they were pumping their tanks 2 times a week.
Wow.
But it was a cash cow for their, I mean,
Yeah.
that financed their expansion into White Bear Township and the one down in Lakeville off 35. I mean, that was the cash cow that
Yeah.
kind of got their empire, so to speak, going.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
that
maybe-
Casey's location in Ham Lake is a half mile north of the Blaine corporate limits.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
the corporate limits line is 133rd. So the center line of 133rd, everything on the north in Ham Lake, everything on the south is in
So
Blaine.
Ham Lake and Blaine never worked out a deal to,
Nope.
And I don't think so.
So they must be making the systems better or more efficient where they can serve a car wash and a gas station.
Yeah, and.
Or
they go to
they're
higher-
pumping it.
Yeah, they go to
Yeah.
higher.
or they're
Right.
pumping it.
Yeah.
I heard that is what the, new holiday that they built down in Soderville, that they pump that.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have to, because those properties down there had
No.
tremendous issues with groundwater for their existing septics. Back in 2012, when our water and sewer project was just finishing up, the owner of Solderquist actually approached the city of East Bethel to see if our system could be extended down there. And we told them it's not so much of an engineering or construction problem, it's a political problem. Because
Right.
number one, Ham Lake would have to approve it, Met Council would have to approve it. And we did have some conversations with Ham Lake and got surprisingly some general interest in it. If it was just to serve that area and have no other hookups, because at that time, one of the owners of Solderquist was a lady by the name of Cheryl Wall. And she said they just spent $65,000 getting their septic system repaired, but the contractors told them it would last maybe 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Max Bar had spent approximately $100,000 on repairs to their system. So there was the potential to hook up several people there. And we did talk to Met Council about it, and they didn't say no, but they said, something would have to be worked out with Ham Lake. Ham Lake says, we might consider it, but we would have to be exempt from any of the housing requirements that Met Council has on meeting those kind of standards. So whether it would have worked, I don't know, but there was interest in it at one time, and that is a real problem area for septic systems.
It might be an idea to reignite those interests.
Well, I think when the opportunity, when maybe there's gonna be some changes in Ham Lake's attitude toward services, and a lot of it could be precipitated by needs of those businesses down there. I think we're gonna be in good position. One of the next extensions that we could possibly do on our system is to run where we have a stub line going over between Snap Fitness and Highway 65 Liquors. We have a sewer line and water line. It goes over to that property behind those. The ultimate plan is to run that sewer at some point down to Ham Lake where it could pick up and serve some areas down that way. And my thoughts on that whole thing were in the beginning is that should have been designed as a regional system and not limited just to East Bethel, so you'd had a customer base going in to generate income to actually fund and pay for some of the bond payments. So ultimately, it'll probably happen one day, but that's still a ways down the road.
Right. Good discussion. All right, let's see. Is that it for business activity? All good, Jack?
That's it.
All right. Number 8, city council report.
There isn't too much. We did plan out, picked a date for the spring town hall meeting. That will be on April 26th, Wednesday at 6 p.m. So we planned it later in April that hopefully we have a nice warmish spring day and will attract a lot of people. Tim, do you have anything to add?
Nope.
All right.
All right. Any questions for council or comments?
I just have a comment. Would the EDA be thinking about having a booth or anything at the town hall?
So the idea is that it's going to be outside, that
No.
correct?
No.
Okay, no,
Inside,
okay,
like
I thought
normal.
April. I was like, that
That-
doesn't seem like it's, okay.
Something to think about.
We could if there's, or maybe just, an update about economic development activities.
Informational
Yeah.
table or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
yeah. I think that would be a good idea.
I think one of the things we could do, like some of the other stuff, is have one of the big boards up
Yeah.
listing the accomplishments and kind of an
Mhm.
update on the status of a lot of projects that have been recently finished or underway or planned.
I like that. All right. If there's not anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.